each other with humility, with understanding, with clarity.
Yes.
We don't have a right to die before we know who we are. We are dying every day, being fully busy, finding fear, failure, frustration in life, but we never contemplate and reflect that we are doing the same thing again and again and again and expecting a different result.
Definition of insanity.
That's here. You understand it. And still I'm doing the same thing. I understand it and I'm doing the same thing. That means I'm not a spiritual person. Be very clear. If you have any doubt, let me.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Now, question is why, even after claiming I know and I understand, I keep on doing it. We have a Rumi of India. That Rumi of India is known as Kabir. He said, what he said? He said that the guy, a lamp in his hand, candle in his hand, fell into the well in the midnight. That is what I just explained. That I have a light, I know there is a well, I keep on doing the same thing in my life, and I have to fall into the well. And I said we have no right to die before we know who we are. Animals cannot know who they are. Their intellect is not free. They are dictated by their animal mind. And one simple example I have repeated hundreds of times. The cows always eat grass. Tiger will always eat flesh since they are born until they die. They cannot change. They reach a physical maturity, and after that they are living mechanically and habitually, and then they die. Unlike the we human being, that something pops up in the mind, why I'm not happy? Why I'm not peace? Why I'm fully busy and still running after every day? I have those questions in the mind, but I don't want to find the answer because I know the answer. I claim I know the answer. So when I claim I know the answer and still I'm doing the same thing, I'm not a spiritual person. Tell me. Tell me if it is not right.
Well, why do we keep doing the same thing? And what do we? Yeah, why?
You're asking from a third person that why I'm doing the same thing. I am not ready to reflect on my life. That is another problem, and that problem is known as ignorance. And ignorance is the cause of all the suffering. That is one pointed answer, but let us go a little deeper. So it means the teacher is there teacher in the Eastern wisdom. I learned from I told you that You already see the picture, Himalayan master for 26 years. So he taught me from his experience plus the text of the Eastern wisdom. Why only the text of the Eastern wisdom? Because these principles cannot be changed. They are absolute principles. Unlike the scientific principles, they change all the time. We create our own principles. I will marry and be happy. That is our principle. So after a few weeks and months, I become unhappy. So I create another principle. Let me divorce to be happy. so, so, so after a few years, I become unhappy. So I create another principle. This time everything will be all right. Let me remarry.
It's so true.
So you got an answer that why we are repeating the same thing again and again and again. Because I claim if I fail first time, I will succeed in the second time. But I don't see whether the happiness lies in the marriage or not. That is where we beer guys comes into your life. And we say first search, examine if the happiness lies in the world of relations, of locations, of possessions, of things or not.
So are you saying we keep doing it again because we're searching for the happiness, we're not aware of what the happiness actually is, so we can't.
What is the location of the happiness? Is the location of happiness in the wealth? Is the location of happiness is in the spouse or a partner or a person or a time or a location? You cannot find happiness or peace in the world outside of wealth. That is why we say the wealth cannot buy happiness. We know it. We claim we know it. And still we do the same thing. We are only fully busy because of the wealth. Tell me if it is not true. So I claim that I know it and still I do it. So I claim I know it, still I do it. It means I have a higher IQ. We should go to Harvard and study there and commit suicide. Majority, many people from the Harvard commit suicide. No person who studies Eastern wisdom have ever dreamed of committing suicide. That is the difference. That is the understanding. So we started our journey that we have no right to die before we know who we are. So I claim what I am. I am fully busy. I marry or I do not marry. I have certain preferences. I have prejudices. I like something. I have to earn more and more wealth to be happy. My entire life, my thought process, my speech, my action is based on the premise that this world will give me the happiness, even when I know that the world is not going to give me happiness. I am living in ignorance. I am living with the wrong notion. I keep on doing the same thing without expecting a different, but expecting a different result. You are not a spiritual person.
Yeah, but don't you think that the only reason that I do that is because I don't feel happy, and so I'm searching for the happiness? So then how?
Yes, you have to sit down. You are doing the same thing again and again, searching happiness outside until the mind is ready to search happiness beyond this world. not outside but inside. But as long as this mind is ready to move inside,
Is happiness a feeling?
forget about happiness or feeling. First thing where I'm searching, the location is wrong.
Okay, yeah.
So don't, we should not jump that. So happiness. So I want to be happy. That's why I'm running. I want to be happy. That's why I want to be related. I want to be happy and in peace. That's why I'm earning more and more. But I don't discover, I don't examine that if the happiness is present in anything in the world. I don't say. Now I know it is not present there, then why you are running? So there is a difference between IQ and emotional freedom. I'm giving you the reason. IQ. You have an IQ of 180 or 190 and still you commit suicide. That IQ will help you to get more and more, but at the same time, it makes you crazy more and more. We need a mind of a seeker. Every discipline needs a reorientation of the mind. If you are studying chemistry, so you should know the basics. If you don't know the basics of the chemistry, like if I say HCl, what did you say? It is an alphabet? No, you are wrong. But those who know the chemistry, they know it is hydrochloric acid. HCl, H2SO4, sulfuric acid, H2O, water. They can immediately recognize. But those who do not know the basics of the chemistry, did you understand that? So a seeker means he knows the basics. So when you know the basics and then you treat the path, then you can examine what is happiness. Don't conclude so fast that happiness is only a feeling. Take one example more. Science says there is a truth and untruth. Huh? Untruth. Untruth means false. Untruth means that does not exist. Huh? You don't have a horn on the dog. That is untruth. Non-existent. Right? And what exists? So what the science says, what exists? You exist, I exist because I see you, you see me. That is the basics of science. What is the basics of Eastern wisdom? We don't learn, we don't understand, we don't follow the basics and we want to be a spiritual. Forget about it. It will never happen. So what is the basic here? So we say there is another aspect, there is a truth, there is a false, and there is untruth. This is the basic. So untruth means non-existent. Truth means it exists. What about the false, which is in Sanskrit is known as mithya? What it means? It exists between the truth and untruth. What we are doing? We are preparing our mind to be a seeker, to find who we are, to become a perfect spiritual person. We don't want to die before we know who we are. So now we have reached to learning the basics. So the first basic, many basics, but this is the first one, that Eastern wisdom introduces there is a truth, or you can say real, false, unreal. Science always says real and unreal, based on the observation of the senses and the mind. It is very clear to both of us. I am not talking of rocket science, I am talking of very in a simple language. So, what is false? The false is in between real and unreal. How do you say that? Yes, we say clearly. And that is why the Buddha says the world is suffering. How it says that we are coming to a conclusion. But before, so when we say it exists between real and unreal, what it means? So understand, it means it appears as a real but is unreal. Understand again? Then I'll give you a couple of examples. So when we perceive through the senses and the mind, it appears real, but it does not exist. That is the real, unreal. How do you say that? Can you give me an example? Your friend is married?
No.
Lucky or unlucky? I don't know.
Single. No girlfriend.
So let me give another example. You see the mirage water that appears real, but it does not exist. One example. So if you are married, you go to your house, you see your partner, you see the beautiful girl as your wife. The wife does not exist, only the girl exists. So I superimpose in my mind, here is my wife. Can you show me the wife in a girl? Can you show me a husband in a person? Which one is first? A boy is first, then husband, or a parent, or a father. Take another example. We say the waves are beautiful. Waves are nothing but the water. The same water appears as a wave, but it is only water.
So what are you saying?
It will take a long time to become a seeker. I have to recognize what is false and reject it. I have to recognize. I have to start living my life in a different way from today.
So you're saying that there's a lot of things that appear to be certain things, but just because something appears to be something doesn't mean that's what it is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
In the wealth it appears happiness, it is not.
And we all go off of appearance. We always judge off of appearance, but that's...
Yes, we always live with the false nature of the world. That is why Buddha says, as long as we live with the false nature of the world, we will continue to suffer. It is a long way to become a spiritual person. Simply saying I don't believe any religion, it doesn't make any sense. If God exists, you believe it or you don't believe it. Nothing happens to the God. What happens to the God? Nothing. You are a religious or you are a not religious person. It doesn't happen to any god and goddesses of different religions. Rather, they enjoy if you say that I don't believe. At least, you are not coming to the religious places to nag me. Better. Leave outside. But we just create a thought and we start living with the thought. And that thought is a false. This is what I am saying. I understand. I have to examine every aspect of my life. Whether I am living with the false nature, I have to drop it. I have a courage to drop it. I don't have a courage to drop it.
Are you saying the importance is the awareness that it's false, or taking action on what is false?
What action you can take on the mirage water? As you approach to the mirage water, it does not exist. What action you have to take? That is awareness.
Mhm.
So the awareness.
Simply now you will start defining awareness through your mind, and that is the biggest problem. That is another false nature. Because we don't want to learn, we don't want to follow the entire journey. We simply say, oh, it's awareness. So you wake up in the morning and you are aware of your thought against a person. You are still aware, you live in awareness. Then what? So it is a journey, my dear friends. So the false, first I recognize. That is why I redefine the false means it appears as a real, but it is non-existent. So I have to simply have a cognitive ability to recognize it is false. When you recognize it does not exist, you don't care. So when you don't care, you are in a choiceless awareness. So when you are in a choiceless awareness, the happiness comes from within you. I summarized a couple of higher principles together. So now focus on what our focus was. We don't want to, we should at least think. We should not die without knowing who we are. You become a religious person, you become a spiritual person, you become any damn thing. It does not make any difference. To what you are. So the moment we know who we are, Eastern wisdom says we are real nature. Real nature is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is permanent happiness. Pure consciousness is permanent peace. Pure consciousness is all pervading. Pure consciousness on which the name and the form are superimposed. That created the world outside. So there is only one consciousness superimposed, became this person of name and the form, this one. The same subconsciousness superimposed that has become these two people, young people, bright people. But the consciousness is the same as the water is one. We have many waves. Entire world outside of time, of location, of situation, of relations has an element of false. So we are living with the false world. So we are bound to suffer because that does not exist and we are searching peace and happiness there. Keep laughing, it's so simple. So now you see the two things we have done. What we have no right to die before we find who we are, but we have already claimed who we are. So what is our claim is false nature. And And because of the false nature, we are suffering. Because of the false nature, we keep doing the same thing, repeating the same thing again and again and again. Weeks, months, years, and expecting a different result. Not possible.
So what do you want us to do?
So
What's the
it,
tool?
yes. So first thing to realize that Eastern wisdom had its own way of finding the truth, unlike the science. So the first principle I have already explained. Understand the real, false, and the unreal. I should examine. So when you examine, then we can add the second principle is that pure consciousness is my real self. It is of the nature of permanent peace and happiness, love and wisdom. You wake up in the morning. You are young, so you both are young, so that's why I'm saying. You wake up in the morning and you had a thought of pleasure, a physical pleasure. What you need to do? You asked me. Remember, peace and happiness is inside me. The mind runs, mind is wandering, mind is distracted, mind is crazy, mind is lazy, only because it claims happiness is outside.
Happiness is what? Outside.
Happiness is outside. So do I start living consciously from today based on this principle? You need not to take any action. Why? The false will disappear by itself, by simply knowing it. Once you know the mirage water is false, you have no problem. Once you know while driving on the highway, you see your experiences, the highways is running behind you. But you are free from the fear, frustration. You have no fear. You see your experiences, highway is running behind you, but your knowledge proves that it is not. Keep on driving. Can I start living into that awareness 24/7? You will see a tremendous difference. You are in a hurry, I have a meeting, there is a big project of $1 million, but now you know the $1 million is not going to bring the happiness. So you calm down. Your anxiety drops down. But my anxiety is because I'm searching something in what is false. I'm searching happiness in the mirage water, that I will drink it and I will be happy. So I go for a sexual pleasure. I go for a sexual pleasure in order to get happiness. So after a few minutes, the happiness is gone. How long you can do the sex? Tell me, 24 hours.
But what about the emotional attachment to your partner after?
First live in false, and then you know what is emotional attachment.
So you're saying if you love someone, then you're not married?
What do you mean by love? You don't know what is love. It is purely an emotional attachment. And any emotional attachment will cause bondage to you. We are running very fast. I love someone. Really? You love someone? From where that love has come? From the person you love or from inside you? Understand first. If the love is coming from inside you, what is that love? Does that love has any expectation? If it has any expectation, it is not love, it is attachment. It is caused by ignorance.
I agree.
So when you ask these questions, I have to be aware whether I'm living in the false nature and asking the questions or whether I want to move to the reality. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes I have to put a little pressure on making you understand and bring you back to the track. We talk love. What is that love? I have a counselor from New Jersey and she is learning from me. But anyhow, she is a great counselor. She is recognized. So she says she is very sensitive. And people use this word. What do you mean by being sensitive? It has more to do with an emotional attachment and a higher level of expectations. You drop the expectation, emotional attachment goes away. Now you are sensitive in a right way. You are extraordinarily aware of the objects and the people and the relations. In that awareness, you don't run by the attachment, you don't run by the expectation. You have started living a spiritual life. That is the meaning that you are a spiritual person. Until you know clearly what is real, what is false, what is unreal, then we make a fun of ourselves. Not going to the church does not mean that I am a spiritual person. An atheist also do not go to the church. What is the difference between a spiritual person and a non-religious person? Second point, let me check what changes has taken place when I have become a spiritual person. After all, there must be some parameters we can check. No, I thought of now I have stopped going to the church and hence I am a spiritual person. Really? Really? Are you right? No, it will not work. Did I live, am I living beyond the stress? That is the big difference between being a spiritual and a religious person. I respect and recognize anything and everything in the world because it is created by one existence. I don't have a preferences of likes and dislikes, reaction and anger and hesitation towards anything. That is the journey to become a spiritual person.
Is it possible to really get to that state, and be in that state all the time?
Is it really possible? Is it really possible? I'm asking a counter question. Is it really possible for a person to become scientist if he is studying economics?
No.
So you have to start the journey. Before you claim this, before you ask this question. And if there is no possibility, this human civilization has produced or we discover more than 10,000 great masters. Is it not a testimony that we can achieve that? Buddha was also a human being. If he can achieve, I'm also a human being, I can. Why don't I think in this way rather than I counter question in a negative way, is it possible? So if I'm asking a counter question, is it possible? It means my mind inside wants to listen and learn, but it is not yet ready.
Okay.
So I should ask the question, how to become the ready, and I have already explained you the two principles. So simple. Listening and learning from a teacher, that is what the Eastern wisdom says. And understanding these principles is the first step. After listening and learning, you contemplate and reflect on that every day. Because you are committed not to die before you know who you are.
What if I die?
That is, we have a good choice. We are doing the same thing again and again. So we have already, now we have no choice. Why we don't have a choice? Because we don't want to know who we are. Because we falsely claim who we are. So now we don't have a choice. So once you have a choice, you are committed. So I told you, listening and learning these principles, but listening and learning the principles of the Eastern wisdom is an indirect knowledge. Why it is indirect knowledge? So you follow the track of the Eastern wisdom. Without, you don't need to believe. You need to follow with the commitment. Now there is the next question comes, why it is an indirect knowledge? Let us understand it simply in a simple way. I say you are peace and happiness. You learned it. That is indirect knowledge. When you can declare by practice and experience that I am peace and happiness, that is direct knowledge. Did you understand this?
Yes.
Did you both understand this?
I didn't catch all of it.
Because you were thinking something else.
Yep, 100%.
You can, even if you don't like this beard, so you can keep on looking this beard. So I said,
Okay.
I told you that you are peace and happiness. So now you understand that I am peace and happiness. You understand only. So that understanding is the indirect knowledge. But when you follow the journey, you practice it, you experience, and you declare that I am peace and happiness, that is the direct knowledge. So there is a gap between the indirect and the direct knowledge. There is a gap. Because I passed on the information, I passed on by teaching you that you are real nature. That is indirect knowledge. But I have to bridge the gap between my understanding and experience. So that bridging the understanding, I have to treat the path. I have to follow the path. I have not to ask the question, is it possible? Forget about that. Now I am already following the path. Now I should want to know. So if your mind asks the right question, what is the way? So you listen and learn the principles, and then you contemplate and reflect on it. So that first the thought becomes your own. What is that thought? That I am peace and happiness. Otherwise, what happens? You learn. You say, "Beer guy is very good. You talk very good. Thank you. I appreciate you." And just after the session, the mind goes to unwanted thought where you claim that you are already in a stress, you have lot of problems. Did you get it?
Yes.
Just after this session, the understanding wipes away, taken over by the false nature. The false nature says, I have lot of stress, and you are saying that I am peace and happiness. How it is possible? You don't say, I am peace and happiness, and what is the cause of my unhappiness? I have to examine and throw it out. So my thinking doesn't change. So in order to change the thinking, I have to contemplate and reflect on it. that if you have told me that I am peace and happiness, I stick to this thought and I examine in the light of I am peace and happiness what causes the unhappiness. And the moment you discover the cause of unhappiness, you will find out it is false. Do you still remember what is false?
Mm-hmm.
It appears to exist, but it does not exist. We are not worthy of suffering as a human being, and we go on claiming that I am suffering.
So what is an appearance and what isn't an appearance?
That is what I explained you. What is real, what is false, and what is unreal. So when you experience any form of the stress, it is caused by the ignorance, and ignorance superimposes the false nature on me. So I start claiming that I am the false self, and when I claim that I am the false self, I will continue to suffer. What is false? I love you, I give you 200%, you have not given me even 5%. That is false nature. See how emotionally attached I am with you, but I have lot of expectations from you. This is ignorance. Why you have lot of expectation, and what expectations you have from anyone? Before you choose who you are. So we do it every day in our thought, in our speech, in our action. And that thought, speech, and action expresses itself from the false nature. And the false nature is caused by the ignorance. And ignorance causes the suffering. Then we start claiming that I carry the burden of a stress for the last 20 years. I told you, Bill Gates said, I lived loveless life for 27 years with Melinda. Why didn't you leave? You are not wise enough.
So basically, you're saying we have a decision every second of the day to decide who we are.
You are in a hurry. You are in a hurry. An answer is yes. And if I say yes to your question, can you maintain that awareness of the false, real, and unreal 24/7? The answer is big no.
No.
Why no?
Because
the mind is obsessed with the false nature.
I agree, the mind virus.
So, and that mind is obsessed with the false nature as the impurities of the mind. So we have to recognize each and every impurity of the mind, and we have to purify the mind before we start living 24/7 consciously.
Yes.
And that is the journey.
Constant.
That is the journey. Then we discover not only what are the impurities of the mind, we also recognize the thought process and the feeling and the experiences we have. Are they indicating the impurity of the mind? And if they are, then what should be the right way to purify it? And that's where the journey starts. Journey, when I say journey, it cannot happen instantly. The way the seed does not become a tree overnight, the knowledge is not realized instantly. Knowledge is not realized instantly. It is realized in stages, step by step. So when it is done by step and step, then we have to treat the journey. Fact is that we are not worthy of suffering. But we claim we are worthy of suffering. Have you seen in our country, in USA, that anyone who has achieved some success in the form of material wealth. Then they say, when I was 10, I lost my dad. I was in deep stress. I underwent into deep depression, and then I came out of it. Why you have to talk? Why you have to glorify the stress?
So true. Yeah.
Why do we do that?
Because we still claim false nature. We claim that we are the false nature.
It's almost like we're like seeking for appraisal for other people to fulfill a void in happiness. Like, I claim that I came out of depression. I came out of depression.
One guy, I don't want to tell you, he's a multi-millionaire, and he contacted me on LinkedIn. And then I said, what you do? He said, no, I have a couple of businesses in Texas and in New Jersey and then in Arizona, and I found you and I just want to talk to you. I said, very good. I don't feel any need to talk to him. No need. You may be a multi-millionaire. I'm happy with what I am. Anyhow, then he told me his story, and then he said, I'm busy, I have a lot of things. So I cannot attend your session, but can you recommend a book? I said, these are the 7 books I have written. Another 2 are coming. So you pick up any book and read. And that's the end. So he pushed me and he wanted to know, how was your childhood? I said, I don't know. I am what I am now. Why should I tell you? Why should I recall it? Why should I recall it? Do you recall your body activities when you were 10 years old? No. 15 years old? No. 20 years old? No. I said, why you are pushing me to recall? No, so that we can know how you progress. I said, what is the progress? Real progress is inner progress. It is not outer progress. You may become a billionaire and still you may be suffering from the stress. And you are living a modest life and you are the happiest person on the earth. He said, that makes sense. I said, yes. Normally I talk nonsense, but today I'm talking some sensible things to you.
I understand the entire concept, but when does it come in as individualized human goals of, like, I have big dreams and aspirations of fulfilling stuff. Yes, part of that is happiness, but I want to make an impact and a transformation on the world, and my unhappiness comes from that unfulfillment of not transforming more people and reaching to these levels, not in a monetary sense, but more of a impactful sense in the world.
The real impact one can make first on oneself to rediscover, find out the real nature. The moment you have discovered your real self, you will naturally make an impact, like the Buddha, like the Jesus, like the Confucius, like the great masters. There is a natural impact. What a mango tree makes an effort to create an impact to find the sweetness in the mango. Tell me.
Great.
Tell me. Impact is natural. Does the air says that I'm making an impact you to breathe? Come on, what you are talking. So if I want to make an impact, I want to make an impact by creating an ego in me. That ego wants to create an impact in the world. It has not found the happiness inside, but it wants to create a happiness for others. That is, what do you mean by the impact? If that is the impact, then I will repeat the same thing. Bill Gates, he made a tremendous impact, no doubt about it. I'm not negating his contribution. malaria eradication program, for the pollution, climate change. He is doing a lot of stuff. But question comes the same thing. Why he lived loveless life for 27 years? He wanted to create impact on the billions by the billions of the dollars, and he did not create any impact in his life. What do you say? What do you mean by it? So I heard his interview and I was laughing. I said, "Oh, very good. I lived my loveless life for 27 years."
My king.
So there is a difference between the last point I'm making today. There is a difference between IQ and being wise.
Being what? Being what I can be.
Being in wisdom is totally different than having the highest level of IQ. You can Google out and check how many people who has the higher level of IQ went to the Harvard and committed suicide. If they had the wisdom supported by the IQ, they could not have committed the suicide. And the wisdom comes by recognizing what is real, what is false, and what is unreal. So, what happens when you recognize it is false? When you recognize that the mirage water is false, will you remain emotionally attached to it? You know it is not true. It appears as a true. Then what happens? You awaken to the wisdom. You live in discernment and dispassion. That means you have a greatest shock absorber in the mind. You can withstand any challenges in the world with that level of awareness. You have a sense of emotional freedom. You don't live in emotional bondage. So those who live in emotional bondage, so majority of the people have the highest level of IQ, they live in emotional bondage. They live for higher and higher expectations from the world. And what the world offers, everything except peace and happiness. Except your calmness, except the smile on your face. And that is why you need to commit a suicide, because your expectations are not met. But whether those expectations can really bring peace and happiness. What is your expectation to become a billionaire? So you are a billionaire, very good. You have 10 cars, very good. You have a mansion with a 10 bedroom, very good. Tell me, can you sleep in 10 bedroom at the same time? Why shouldn't I recognize this? I'm not saying don't have 10 cars if you have the resources, have it. But when I have that recognition, I remain emotionally free from all the possessions. Even if they are lost, I'm happy. Because my happiness does not depend on them. I'm not saying don't have it. If you have the resources, have everything. I should not say, change your religion and have 4 or 5 wives. you enjoyed it. Will you really enjoy the 5 at the same time? Will you drive? Will you be able to drive in 10 cars at the same time? 6 by 4? Nick has already seen my room. I relax just behind me. I just put up the bed and I meditate there. 100% with authenticity, we all know that to sleep and rest, we don't need more than 6 by 4 at one place. For me, I'm 6 feet, so that's why I'm talking 6 by 4. We don't need it. So we are not saying that you don't do anything in the personal, professional, social life. Do everything. But with the wisdom. IQ is good, but the best part is that you don't have an IQ. You have a wisdom. You live the happiest life. Whatever you have, whatever you possess, and you keep on working, not being absolutely busy, but being emotionally free, working, working, smart working, hard working, everything is included, but in wisdom, not not overpowered by your IQ, guided by the higher level of expectations from the world should produce happiness to you. That is absent. Then you stop doing the same thing again and again and again. Now you are living your life in wisdom. Every time you have a different result. In every relationship, you find that calmness, that peace, that love, that affection. So you are also in the same business.